Greeting ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting Unity tutorial. Today we will be learning how to create a loading bar for our game so we can let the player know that the game is loading a level. Here's how it should look like once it's finished. Let's get started. This time, instead of creating a new project, we'll be using the game menu project from the game menu video because we already have a menu and a game scene to transition to. But first, let's go to the asset store and download a scene that will take a while to load. I chose Nature Starter Kit 2 because we need a scene with many assets to be loaded so we can see the loading bar working. At the moment, our game scene contains nothing but a text and it would load instantly. Okay, so let's go into the newly downloaded folder, go to the scene folder and rename this scene, this demo scene, to the game scene. So we can use it instead of our game scene. Now we go to build settings and we'll put it there. Now if we start the scene and press on the play button, it should load our new scene. But as you can see, it pauses for a second because Unity is stopping to be able to load the entire scene. Now let's go to Canvas and create a panel from UI panel. This is going to become our loading bar, but first we will need to create it in Photoshop. So let's go to Photoshop. Okay, so what I basically created was two images, a frame for our loading bar and a feeling for our loading bar. And now I just saved them as two separate images that we will use in our project. Now if we go back to Unity, let's put the frame first. And let's use this panel image that we've made. Select the frame, make its alpha 100%. Let's press on preserve aspect ratio so we know how it looks like. And now we can make it smaller and maybe center it afterwards. There we go. And now let's hide the menu so we can see the bar better. Let's give it a name. Let's say loading bar. And now underneath it, let's create an image. Let's go to UI image and make it the same size as our loading bar by pressing Alt and full screen. And let's call this loading bar fill or something like that. There we go. And let's go and select our fill for our image. Now let's go to the image type and select filled, and also the fill method we want to be horizontal and from left to right. There we go. And now if we change the fill amount, we can see that it goes from 0 to 100%, which in the fill amount is 0 to 1. Okay. Now let's also create a text. Same thing, we'll make it the same size as the loading bar. Let's give it an auto size. And let's center it. And this will say like maybe loading, and then the percentage of the loading. Okay. Let's make it bold as well. Looks all right. Yeah, let's make the text bold as well, so it looks better. Okay. Now, if we go to the menu, let's hide the loading bar first and put the menu back on. If we go to the menu script, which sits on the menu game object, you can see we have a play function with a scene manager that loads the game scene. Now, if we want to load our game scene without pausing, we need to use load scene asynchronous, so we can show the loading bar in the meantime, and for the game to not pause like we saw in the example in the beginning. This function returns some information about the loading process, which is stored in a async operation variable. Let's call it operation. Now we can use this variable to feed the information to our loading bar, so it shows the progress of loading the new scene. We can do this by saying operation.progress, and this will give us a number between 0 and 1, which represents the overall loading process. Now let's also create a reference to the loading bar image, so we can control the fill amount of the image. So we'll say public image, and we're also going to need to use the Unity engine.ui for this. Okay, and let's call it loading bar. What we need now is to monitor the loading process in a coroutine, so we can update our loading bar after each frame. So we have to use an enumerator function. Let's call it private enumerator and give it a name. It's gonna be loading scene, and we'll have to put the loading process inside here. So let's take it from the play button. Let's delete this first. Now, while the operation is not done, which is, we're gonna use the operation dot is done, and we'll put not in front of it. So while the operation is not done, we want to update the loading bar. So we'll say loading bar dot fill amount equals operation dot progress. because both go from 0 to 1. There we go. Now what we want to do is return null, which means we wait for the next frame, and do this again. Let's put now in our play button, let's start the coroutine. We also want to hide our game menu when we start loading and show our loading bar. So let's create our references towards the menu and also the loading bar. So let's say public game object menu and public game object loading bar. And let's rename the image to loading bar image after that. There we go. Now, before starting the coroutine, let's make the menu invisible by saying menu.setActive false, and let's make the loading bar active by setting to true. Now if we go, let's put all of these inside menu. Let's put our reference sets inside. So that's the loading bar. This is the loading bar image that we'll use as a fill. Let's go back to our script. Let's also change the percentage our text shows by creating a reference to our text value. We have to use TM Pro from TextMesh Pro so we can access the TextMesh Pro text value. Let's call it loading bar text or loading text. Okay. And inside here, let's say loading text dot text equals loading dot plus progress plus operation dot progress multiplied by 100, so it gives us a percentage, and plus percentage sign. There we go. We also want to transform the entire operation to an integer. And what I forgot to tell you is that we have to move the menu script to the canvas, because we will activate and deactivate the menu, so the script will not work afterwards if we do that. And what we also want to do is clamp our value between 0 and 0.9, because that is when Unity is loading the new scene, and between 0.9 and 1 Unity is just releasing objects from the previous scene. So we want to go from 0 to 100% while it's just loading so between 0 and 0.9. So we'll use mathf.clamp01 and say operation.progress divided by 0.9f, and we'll use this new variable instead of operation.progress, and that's it. Now if we go back to Unity and play the game and press on the play button, it should load. There we go. If you like this video, give it a like or a share. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. And if you have the possibility, please consider supporting me on Patreon from just $1 a month. See you next time.